Why do you want to maximize your raid score? Just feels good to finish it quick, see big numbers, and carry along with life.
I guess.
Hi guys, welcome to another Counterside video. Today, we are going to talk about how you can maximize your raid team for better performance and for when you have the chance of smashing that level 200 boss. At the current state of the game, there are players who have advanced their branches to level 8, and there is a small chance that they might discover a nightmare grade level 200 raid boss. Why do you want to maximize your raid score?
Why though?
No reason. Just feels good to finish it quick, see big numbers, and carry along with life, I guess. So, in this video, we'll explain in what sequence you want to arrange your employees to not only optimize your damage, but also survive as long as possible on full auto, assuming you're not able to down the boss in one attempt. Like a standard raid boss, you may assign a shift and up to 24 employees for the entire 3 in-game minute fight, and the sequence of deployment starts from the top row, left to right, down to the bottom row. Here's a fun fact. Since it takes approximately 4 in-game seconds to gain 1 deployment resource, we can theorize that you have a total of 45 deployment resource from start to finish. And this will be the confine we'll be working with in this particular video. As I lack the hard evidence to show the numbers, I'm just gonna say it again that this strategy is purely what worked best for me and purely my personal preference. For an easy explanation, I'm going to categorize the employees. So if you do not have the ones that I mentioned, you can always play around by swapping them role for role. These are the roles to deploy according to the amount of contribution on the overall outcome. The first units you want to drop are what we call the battery units. These guys have skills that just outright recharges your deployment resource bar. Second, you want to drop your DPS. How to categorize the DPS? Well, their kits are designed to dish out damage without much care for their own survival.
Alright, now rush on in for an all-out attack!
The third would be the offensive support. Offensive supports provide buffs or debuffs that increases our damage output. And lastly, the defensive supports. Units that either heals or provide damage mitigation when they are deployed. So the battery role is simple, right? The earlier they are dropped, the more deployment resource they can give, which also means the quicker we can deploy our units. So for the first 9 deployment resource, assuming you have a level 90 ship and above, because the only notable battery employee is currently just Lin Xian and Choi Ina, I highly recommend giving Lin Xian cooldown reduction gear and let her lead the fight. You can also consider deploying Choi Ina after Lin Xian, provided that your main DPS is actually the type that will stay at the backline, the furthest part of your backline, in order to maximize Choi Ina's potential. If you don't, just skip her. So after deploying your battery units, the next you want to deploy will be your main DPS. Now this is highly based on your preference, but my personal recommendation would be a melee DPS like Chifuyu or Awakened Yuna. I'm so anticipating and so excited for Awakened Yuna, I keep calling her name. What I meant was Awakened Yumina. Well, if you have both of them, Chifuyu and Awakened Yumina, just put them both down. And of course, by the time if you know Awakened Yuna is released and you have her build, she's going to just take the spotlight. You don't screw Chifuyu, screw Awakened Yumina, just use Awakened Yuna. So assuming you don't have the first 3 I just mentioned, which is Chifuyu, Awakened Yumina, or Awakened Yuna, your other option would be a Ranger DPS, which, like for example, Kim So-bin, Gayun, Rosaria, Kyle. If you don't have either of them, you can always use a sniper like Xiao Lin. But I have to put it up front as well, they pose a higher risk of not surviving the fight if you don't time your defensive support properly, because these guys are just very squishy. And for any raid that goes above level 115, you need a certain level of gear in order for your snipers and rangers to survive the boss's AoE attack without any damage mitigation or shields. So at this point, you want to then deploy your offensive supports with healers in between. A general rule of thumb is to space your healers apart approximately 7 to 9 deployment resources. So for example, if you dropped, after you finish dropping Awakened Yumina, let's say, and then you want to drop offensive supports. So offensive support such as Shinja cost 3, Surion's going to cost 3, assuming you're just going to drop those two first, that's 6 costs apart, you can consider dropping your first defensive healer after that. So here's a list of offensive supports that works really, really well for raids, right? Let's just talk about the offensive ones first. We have Roy, Terminator, Shinja, Hild, Seoyun, Kathy Wade. Of course, they are not arranged in a way of being ranked or whatnot, there's no chronological order. For defensive supports, we have, of course, Yang Harim, Shinatsu, Evelyn, Claudia, Arius, and Eddie. So if you're like me, right, that we don't really spend a lot of time thinking, right, or min-maxing in order to get everything right and, you know, get to the highest score possible. Our goal is just to, you know, hit the satisfactory level of like quickness, high score, you know, feel good about ourselves, and then it's good enough. Well, here's what you will want to see. This is my recommended sequence. I always start off with Lin Xian, and then I throw my DPS down. So if you put Chifuyu, if you have Chifuyu and Awakened Yumina, use them. If not, Awakened Yuna's fine. If not, it'll be your Kyle, your Gaiun, or your Kim Sobin. Right? So once you've dropped your battery and then you drop your DPS, this is how the sequence should go. Yang Harim comes first, and then deploy Raw and Terminator. After that, we'll drop Evelyn, and then we'll drop Shinja and the SR Hild, and then we drop Shinatsu. If let's say the fight doesn't end after this, put your second DPS down, and then follow up with Kathy Wade and Eddie Fisher. Lastly, Claudia. And still, if you really want to know what to put next, just put Seoyun in the last spot. So why I say Seoyun's the last spot is because if you add up all the total deployment resource, it's just starting from Harim, starting from Lin Xian onwards, and a Chifuyu and the Awakened Yumina, you have a total deployment resource of 44. There you have it. Now you can make some tweaks to your own raid lineup to maximize your damage. I know a lot of people doesn't really care about the score since the rewards are mediocre and there's no competitive elements to it, but as a PvE person, I also know that seeing big numbers, record-breaking finishes are just as satisfying as when Awakened Yumina team wipes in Gauntlet. Until the next video, game on guys.